My name is Russ Merz. I'm a professor of integrated marketing communications here at Eastern, and I've been here a long time. I'm also a consultant with Ketchum PR. I do predictive analytics for them, and I've got quite a bit of track record in doing analytics type work with 4Seed, CFI Group, Downstream Partners, and some other companies. So I've been around the block a couple of times on this topic. What I'd like to do today is just give you a brief introduction to the session and set it up for our panelists here and introduce you to them. One of the things, if you've done any kind of poking around in the social media environment, is that you'll notice that there are a lot of people who talk about social media online. Many publishers that are out there that do, title themselves as being kind of the oracles for social media. And they provide lots of advice, plenty of advice about how to manage and measure social media, and perhaps it's too much advice at times. It might be a little overwhelming and you're trying to make some sense out of it. And then they throw numbers in. So they give you a lot of stats and a lot of metrics about what you ought to be measuring, what you ought to be doing, and that kind of stuff. And in the last couple of years, another phenomenon that's evolved is we have a lot of vendors that claim that they can measure social media, and these are just some of them, okay? And that they'll be happy to take your money and to measure your social media efforts and give you some feedback. Well, all of this, to me, is kind of noise, and it creates a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace about, what do you do with this stuff? How do you take it and set objectives, develop strategies, implement tactics, and then measure the outcomes of that? So our speakers in this panel are going to help you cut through that noise. Okay? They're going to try to give you some ideas about how to do these things. One of the things I would like to leave you with is when you're thinking about measuring any kind of system, whether it's a face-to-face system or an arm's-length digital system or what have you, there is a string of activities and metrics and expenditures and investments that you're going to be looking at. And so, we could argue that you need to start off with, first of all, strategy. And if you were in the previous session, one of the kind of common themes that we saw in that session, and also from our keynote speaker this morning, is that you really need to know what the heck you're trying to do with any of these kinds of methods that you're using, whether it's search, social, what have you. And then determine what the goals are, or what the tactical actions might be that you want to take to get there, and then measure that, and then link it somehow to some sort of financial outcome. If you can't string all those pieces together, it's going to be really hard to manage it very well and very effectively. So, without further ado, let me just introduce our speakers. We have, first of all, Sola Opayan, who is a principal consultant at VTO, who's done a lot of social media work. She's also the president, I believe, right, of the Social Media Association of Michigan, director? Okay, president and executive director. So she has a lot of perspectives about this whole area. And then second, we've got Sean Hickey, who's the Chief Operating Officer at PEWB, a digital agency here in Ann Arbor, who's going to talk about some of his perspectives about social media analytics. And then we'll follow up with two speakers from General RV, Matt Lauren and Candace Mason, who are going to talk more about the practical side. They're going to look at a couple of case studies that they can that relate the strategy to the metrics. So, without further ado, let's get started.
All right, hello, and thank you for being here. I'm really excited to chat with you about the intersection of social media and search. So a little bit more about me. I have been, sounding very long, but I have been working in digital for about the past 16 years. I started with developing websites. This is back when SEO was nothing more than putting links into directories. For the past 7 years or so, I've really focused on social media campaigns, execution, and measurement. So we're going to have a conversation today about the fundamentals of social media campaign execution and really how SEO ties into that. The other panelists are going to get more involved in some specific tactics but this is really underlying information that should really drive your campaign execution. All right, so the first takeaway is SEO is like peanut butter to social media's jelly, meaning that social activities touch consumers at various stages of the funnel. Analytics provides that final conversion. So generally speaking, all promotional activities should drive your traffic to your website, which is your home online. Every once in a while, who's heard of the Taco Bell social media blackout campaign that happened last week? So every once in a while, you'll have a campaign like that kind of disrupts and does not follow all the rules. And campaigns like that are an exception, they're not the rule. The rule is that you are engaging with your consumers on social media channels consistently. And in fact, Taco Bell might have some negative long-term impacts, specifically because of that. Thank you, Roger. Yeah, so ideally you want to maintain and even increase conversations and communication with your audience during your social media campaign. A little bit more history as well regarding SEO and evolution of that and how it ties into social. So initially, when websites first became popular, they were used as digital business cards, and conversion took place in the form of a phone call to a brick and mortar business. That's how websites have evolved. Now we have social. We have multiple ways of driving awareness. Social media is evolving just as the web has been evolving. And have you ever heard social media marketers say, what's the ROI of social media? The ROI is, what's the ROI of putting on your pants? Have you guys heard that? So that used to be a very common answer to the question of what is social media ROI. And I'm happy to say now that we do have some tangible ways of declaring exactly what ROI is. And I believe that my philosophy is that it's not a question of ROI, but it's a question of multi-channel attribution. ROI is return on investment. What businesses and business owners really want to know is how are my social media activities affecting my sales or touching consumers at various points of the funnel. So it's an attribution challenge. It's not an ROI question. All right, these are the general 6 steps in social media campaign execution. So we start with strategy development. Strategy development is where your social listening occurs. This is your research phase. This is where you see the forest for the trees. You understand your community, your competitor, your target audience. So the next step is ideation. Campaign ideation is this is one of my favorite steps of a campaign. The previous session probably talked about how to ideate campaigns that inspire and delight. That's the purpose of a social media campaign. Generally speaking, is to increase awareness for your brand by delighting and inspiring your audience. I want to underscore that social media is not a direct sales channel. Okay, the general rule is an 80-20 split between promotional content and content that suits your audience. Step 3 is tactical planning. And in tactical planning, this is where you create your tactical plan. This is where you select your team, any vendors you may be working with, your step-by-step plan for execution. And additionally, this is where you choose your KPIs, your key performance indicators. I don't know if you heard this in the previous session, but your KPI should be perfectly aligned with your business's objectives. So even though your objective may be sales, lead generation, might be part of your key performance indicators, or content downloads might be one of your key performance indicators, which should thereby drive consumers down the funnel and convert them to sales. Execution is the pedal to the metal. This is executing your social media campaign. This is watching your data. This is communicating with your team. But what we're going to focus on for the rest of this particular conversation is measurement and optimization. And these are arguably the most critical steps in social media campaign execution, because without an effective framework for these 2 steps, then you're simply spinning your wheels and possibly wasting your time, when it comes to executing social media campaigns. So we're going to talk about earned, owned, and mixed media. So earned media is generated by customers or press. This is social media. This is word of mouth. This is what we're going to be focused on during this session. Owned media is brand-owned communication. This is your website. This is your email. This is your blog. Paid advertising, of course, these are advertisements you can pay for via social, search. This is also traditional advertising. So as I mentioned earlier, all your activities should drive consumers to your websites, which is owned. This is a channel that you completely, fully control the messaging. So let's demonstrate some fundamental ideas, then we'll talk about how social fits into the media mix and of earned, owned, and paid media. All right, so we're getting into measurement. You can't measure what you can't manage what you don't measure. So you want to measure as many data points as you absolutely can. Google Analytics is a platform that we're all extremely familiar with, and we all recommend. You want to define your measurement objectives. So your measurement objectives should now align with your KPIs, which you hashed out while in the third stage of executing your social media campaign. One of the measurement points you want to focus on is campaign reach, the total amount of people that your campaign is reaching via various channels. But with social, this is, if you're with Twitter, with Facebook as well, they both have insights and analytical tools that can help you determine exactly what that reach looks like. You also want to measure your campaign conversions. And these are the final conversions to sales, or based on your KPIs, this could be leads. These could be content downloads as well. But the key point is really to focus on those various KPIs and conversion rates for each. Now, social media can be used to supplement customer service and also supplement customer acquisition. So at this particular stage with assessing cost-cutting data, if one of your key performance indicators are customer service requests or customers that you've acquired, you want to be measuring that as well, because you're going to take this data and you're going to apply it to your historical data, and you're going to be able to communicate how social has been positively affecting customer acquisition costs and customer service costs. In the long term, you can make a case for diverting customer service entirely to social, which some companies and organizations have already done in the process of doing. All right, you want to summarize and share your insights with your team. It's going to be different depending on who here works for an agency. Okay. Who here is a vendor that works with or consultant? Okay, and who here is client side? Okay, great. All right, so you're going to be having a discussion with your internal team across the various functions that your social media campaign is impacting. So I mentioned customer service earlier. You want to really talk to your customer service team. You want to have conversations with your sales teams, and you want to have conversations with your finance team as well, to really bring all of this data in and be able to gather insights that you can then reapply to your campaign in order to consistently optimize it. Having a discussion among team members is critical, and sharing insights is critical, because social media is not a siloed activity, even though it's been executed as a siloed activity until very, very recently. And the knowledge bomb is that data will tell you what you need to know about your customer. Embrace the data, be a data geek. Okay, get very, very comfortable with the numbers. All right, we're going to talk about the optimization strategy. How do you optimize your social media campaign? And you begin with the right questions, asking the right questions within your teams, and asking who your audience is, pulling these points specifically from the data. Where are they coming from? Where is your primary traffic to your website coming from? Are they converting? Are they converting to leads? Are they converting to sales? Where are they converting? And if they aren't converting, why aren't they converting? And your data should be able to really help you tell a story about your audience's behavior. So these are the kind of insights you want to pull from your data. So if there are any sales, unaccounted sales numbers, then this is when you go back to your data and you analyze why. You compare your data to your social media data and traffic to your sales numbers. And if there are any gaps in there, this is also where your attention should be drawn to. Okay, so once you're complete, once you've closed the stage of communicating with your team and gathering insights, applying insights is basically going back to key performance indicators and adjusting them based on the insights you pulled from the measurement stage. Okay? And once you adjust your key performance indicators, and these can be sales and these can be leads, once you've adjusted your key performance indicators, you adjust your tactical plan as well. So if you discover that a particular market segment is communicating with your social content, you want to adjust your tactical plan to possibly include hashtags that will target these particular audiences that you feel is working for your social campaign in order to optimize it. That's one tactic for optimizing social media. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the case is not for ROI. The case is for social media, for multi-channel attribution. And how it's currently set up is that we live in a world of last click attribution. So the conversion currently is attributed to the very last click. And for that reason alone, is why the social media ROI question is still floating around. So what brands really want to know is how social media is impacting their business. Facebook knows this. They recently purchased a company called Atlas. And Atlas is used currently for Facebook remarketing. I don't know if any of you are currently running any social media remarketing campaigns, but they actually have, based on the work I've done with my clients, they have exceptional ROI in my personal experience. So it's one of the tactics that you might want to consider going back is considering Facebook remarketing campaign. They also, one of the features that Atlas also has is an ability to attribute Facebook activities to multiple points of the sales funnel. So they've not released this particular feature yet, but it's very likely that very soon marketers will be able to take a look at their Facebook data, attribute it to conversions, which we cannot currently do right now. It's a challenge to do that. And if you're experiencing difficulty measuring the impact of your social media activities, it's very likely that you have a leaky funnel. And you know you have a leaky funnel because your sales numbers are not matching the conversions in your data. Using Google Analytics, you can create a multi-channel attribution model. And to be clear, when I speak about multi-channel attribution during this conversation, I'm referring to across digital channels, not online to store attribution, and not across multiple screens. So I want to be very clear, this is across just digital channels. You must experiment. So you must experiment. You begin your attribution modeling process with historical assumptions, with experimenting, and really finding the benchmarks for your model. We can't demonstrate it at this particular time. It would take too much time to go into it, but at the very bottom of the slide, there's a link to Moz.com's guide on multi-channel attribution, which is a really deep dive into attribution across multiple digital channels. So user behavior, I'm going to broad stroke the right questions that you should be asking to develop your multi-channel attribution strategy. One is user behavior. What are users doing and when are they doing it? Which social channels are working best for you? You want to measure, want to consider optimal conversion. What is the pattern that you see for the optimal conversion rates? You should be able to pull all this data from Google Analytics. Historical purchase behavior. Okay, this is also related to your optimal conversion rates. This will also influence and inform your multi-channel attribution strategy. Micro-conversions are also another data point that you need to take a closer look at. And micro-conversions are simply conversions like email signups and content downloads, and leads is basically, those are micro-conversions. You also would want to consider offline conversions from conferences, from in-store marketing. There's no great way to do this at scale currently. So this is offline conversions and adding that to your attribution modeling process. That's still a conversation that's being had. Pulling physical real-world data, pulling in-store traffic into that model is very challenging to do. So holistically, bringing it all together. So how do you create an effectively delicious outcome or results? So your website is your home online. All social media activities, advertising, content marketing activities should bring traffic to your website where the consumer converts to a sale or a lead. So we're going to talk about social media and SEO trends. What to expect in 2015. Algorithm refinement by all major channels is something that we're going to continue to see. Google, in fact, has had many updates to Google search just this year alone. We're going to start seeing some social signals play into that. Search does not, at this particular time, include any social signals. Even though there's been some conflicting information, the basic point is that social media activities are not directly influencing Google search at this time. Facebook is also going to continue to tweak their algorithm. They recently tweaked their algorithm based on the fact that they don't want to. The reason was to avoid too much influx into your digital stream, but essentially social media advertising is what you're going to need to consider moving forward with Facebook at this particular time. They're going to continue to tweak their algorithm until we start seeing a 0% reach in organic posts. So expect that for 2015. We're also going to see higher quality content. Some of the updates that have been made to Google search particularly are driving forward the point of having higher quality content, having stickier content, and Google is starting to demote sites that have Google quality content and that aren't as sticky, and consumers are not spending a lot of time on those pages. So they're considering those pages a little bit more spammy. So they're looking for content that really drives an audience there and keeps them there for a longer time. So next year we're also going to see a lot of mobile optimization. This ties into the multi-channel strategy across screens. That's in its infancy of being developed at this particular time, but next year we're going to start to see mobile devices. Actually, there's a product called Mixpanel, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to touch on that now in correlation with mobile optimization. Mixpanel allows you to measure traffic based on users' activity. So it's not Google search-based traffic. It's since there's an app that consumers connecting with, it's much easier to measure activity in various apps across multiple devices. So Mixpanel is set up for conversions and measuring particular activities. So I highly suggest that if any of you have clients in mobile or are measuring mobile activities right now, to check out that particular tool. There's a premium version and there's also a free version. Mixpanel, mixpanel.com. All right, pro tip. The tools are only effective with the user. So before you deep dive into these tools, you want to really educate yourself on the fundamentals. I understand most of you are client-side marketers, so these are great places to start. The free tools, obviously, Google Analytics, Twitter Analytics, Facebook Insights, which is not currently there, Hootsuite for your management, Bitly for shortening links, and also for management and measurement. And then lastly, Mixpanel for mobile. Some of the premium tools are there as well. Moz is for SEO. They recently changed the name from SEO Moz to just Moz, and I believe that they're getting ready to really be the leader in search and the social signals. They are the current leader in SEO, but they're getting ready to be. They currently are and the lead in educating for search. But they will be putting in signals and they'll help us stay on top of the current evolution of the technologies next year. So HubSpot, also for measurement, Adobe Social, Sprinkler, and Spreadfast. All right, so please feel free to connect and continue the conversation. You can find me on pretty much any social network, but I'm most active on Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. And there's a little fun part that I would like to do at the conclusion of this presentation. Who remembers the peanut butter jelly meme, one of the first viral memes? So the first person to find that video and tweet it out with the hashtag will get free membership to the Social Media Association of Michigan for 1 year.
Thank you, Stella. Do any of you have a really quick question for Sola? Or yes, right back there. One.
Could you just say a little bit more about the social signals that you think that the search engines are going to be picking up on?
Sure. Well, in the past, there was a lot of speculation that Google Plus would be Google's main driver of social signals. In fact, at the time that Google Plus was launched, we all really, search experts and social media experts, really thought that social signals were beginning to affect search based on their analytics alone. So what we're seeing, though, is that because Google has invested such a significant amount of resources in Google Plus, that's really the reason that's a key objective for keeping it alive this time. Because next year, when they do begin to pull in social signals, it'll primarily come from Plus. Right now, there is some data from Plus that is rendered in search. It's rendered alongside search, but it's due to a recent announcement that they made, it's not directly impacting yet. So my projection is that Google Plus is going to be the social signal for search next year.
Okay, thank you. If you would, just please don't hold your questions until the end. We're going to walk through the rest of the presentations with Sean Hickey now. And if you have a question for Saul, we can field it at the end of the session, okay? All right. Sean.
Okay. So we did the little informal poll of the room, so I don't have to do my usual thing, which is, okay, this is going to be hard for me because I'm a wanderer. So you're going to see me wandering off from the podium, so feel free to point at me and tell me to go back to the podium. Learned a little bit about you. Let me give you a little bit of my background, because what you're going to hear from today are some of the best and the brightest minds in social media and me. My background is more as a marketing generalist. I run an integrated marketing communications agency. We have historically done a lot of B2B. We're doing a lot more business to consumer stuff. Digital is a very important part of our mix. We did our first website in 1994. So there's probably a fair number of you in the room who are like, I wasn't in high school yet. So I've watched this whole thing grow up and take place and happen. My primary focus as a marketing professional is on branding, storytelling, and demand generation. And for me, social media and search and all this other digital stuff is all part of that. It all fits together. It's another channel. I used the analogy once in the past that social media is plumbing, and that what you put inside of it is important. Your water pipes are a little different than your waste pipes, I'm just saying. I come at the world from a sales-oriented perspective. I'm a third-generation sales guy. My grandfather sold some of the first TV advertising in the state of Michigan for John Luce Booth. So that tends to kind of be my angle. My first boss when I got out of grad school used to say that if you go on a sales call and they buy something, it's selling, and if they don't, it's marketing. I've spent my entire career trying to live that down. So that's kind of, when you see where we're going with some of this and where my perspective is, you know, we'll talk about some specific tools, but we're going to talk about a real different angle on this as well. I also teach this stuff to engineers up at Kettering, which is interesting. It actually goes better than I would have thought it would. At first I was like, well, how's this going to go? Am I going to take these really abstract concepts and give them to people who are really, really analytical? And it actually has worked out pretty well. And amazingly enough, I'm a Central Michigan Chippewa, and I was allowed back on campus after last weekend's beating on the football field. So anyway, had to get it in. Plus, as anybody who's seen me speak before knows, if you're coming to one of my presentations, you'll always see a picture of me holding a fish. So I put 3 new ones in this year. All right, let's see if technology fails me or not. Let's see, it's gonna fail me. Every time. So I think this clip from one of my favorite movies, by the way, is a perfect illustration of what's wrong with social media metrics. There's a line in there where John Candy says, "How does he know where we're going?" Well, John Candy thinks he's going the right way. Turns out he's not going the right way. The number one challenge that I see for social media metrics is a fairly simple one. Most people have no idea why they're doing social media. How many of you in here have a documented social media strategy? I mean, like written down somewhere that you could take out. Okay. You're way ahead of a lot of the world. It's funny because I was at a dinner with a bunch of the speakers the other night and we got talking about this, and this came up with multiple people unprompted, that a lot of folks are out there and they're doing social media and they don't know why they're doing it. They haven't really thought it through. So what I'm going to talk a lot about today is this idea that it's a big world out there. There's a ton of stuff, and every time I turn around, I tell my students at Kettering, I'm like, you guys are here to drive guys like me insane, because every time we think we found where you are, you invent something new. And then we have to track it, and we have to figure that out, and what are the metrics to that, and how do I integrate that with all the other stuff. But at the end of the day, ye olde sales proverb says, you motivate what you measure. And the analogy I use is, okay, it's our job in social media metrics to move the needle. If you don't know what the needle looks like, you're never going to know if you moved it. And I find a lot of organizations that are just out there blindly kind of scrambling around, and they're doing social media, and they don't really know why they're doing it, and they don't know why they're on this channel, or they haven't really thought through why they're on this channel, or kind of some of these things. And as a result, you don't know what metrics to look at or what metrics to pay attention to. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning who's in corporate strategy for a Fortune 100 company, and a lot of what he does is kind of numbers-based and metrics-based. And we were talking about that one of the things that's changed from the current generation of marketers to my generation, and now I'm dating myself, is, when I got started in marketing, we had a few data points that we could reach to, and we made a lot of assumptions. We went, well, okay, I know this and I know this, so that probably means this is true. Now the problem's flipped 180 degrees. You've got so much data that figuring out what piece of data I ought to pay attention to when I've got 1,000 pieces of data and 5 that matter. And really my premise is, if you know what your strategy is, you'll know what pieces to take a look at. So I love the old adage of plan your work and work your plan. And from my perspective, I remember a few years back I was doing a presentation at Ann Arbor Spark, and we got to the Q&A, and I kind of got into a little presentation fist fight with a guy who wanted to know, what should your blogging strategy be? Which is like the dumbest question ever. Hey, Linda's here. Hi, Linda. She does search stuff. She's cool. And my argument with this individual was, your blogging strategy ought to tie back to your social media strategy, which ought to tie back to your communications plan, which ought to tie back to your marketing plan, which, here's a really neat idea, ought to tie back to your business plan. At the end of the day, all that stuff ought to link up, and if that stuff doesn't link up, you're doing it wrong. Now, some people do it more formally or more informally than others, and I think you're going to hear some examples of that in a little bit, but they're still doing it. If you're not doing it, if you're out there on Pinterest because your mother-in-law said you should be, this is bad. And we see a lot of that. We see people who want to be out on channels, and they don't know why, and they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what their content strategy is, so they don't really know if it worked or not. So you can do social media for a lot of reasons. Way, way, way more than I could have put on this slide. And all of these are very viable reasons to do social media. It could be I'm trying to do engagement and dialogue. It could be I'm trying to generate leads, which, by the way, if you're in the B2B segment right now and you're doing social media to generate leads, you're looking at it wrong. It's an integrated activity. Social media is part of it. It's certainly part of the channel. But if you're saying I'm doing social media to generate leads, that's a fallacy. You're doing it to create brand lift or move your position up in the marketplace. Another perfectly viable strategy for doing social media, build search traffic. Google's out there looking for fresh content. Social media is about as fresh as you're going to get. It's a reasonable strategy. I have clients we work with that's the only reason they do it. Maybe you're trying to have a larger footprint or enlarge your brand or get into new areas that you haven't been in. Maybe you're in a technical discipline or a high-tech product and you want to get thought leadership. Maybe you're using social media as a research tool. I want to gain some insight into what my customers are thinking, what my customers are talking about. All viable reasons. But if you can't answer the question, why are you doing social media, with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these, by the way, if you say all 10, that's a problem too, but that's a whole other problem. That you got to hire me to sort out for you. So then what we do as a result of that is you start to take a look at, well, all right, well, what are some of the tools that are out there? And obviously this panel of experts I'm with can give you a whole bunch more of them than I have. But I have a few basics that we like. Hootsuite is a good tool. It's got its challenges. It's got a pretty kludgy user interface. It's not exactly user-friendly. But it'll enable you to get to a lot and do quite a bit. It's a good all-around tool, and it fits in everyone's budget because it's free. Social Mention is another one that we like. It's basically the Google Alerts of social media. We found that that works really pretty well. Cloud is good if a bit confusing. You know, you've got to, I think Sola mentioned this, you know, the tool's only as good as the user. And Cloud's one of those that you sort of need to know what you're doing and, okay, I moved this knob and it changed that gauge and what did that mean and what did I do? So it's one that I sort of reserve that for people who know what they're doing and have been in this for a while. But Facebook Insights and Twitter Analytics are good solid tools for measuring. They're great, they built them in. I mean, Facebook, we were talking about this at dinner last night, Facebook has moved into the monetization role. If you notice that everything changed real recently in Facebook, I saw that and I'm like, oh, okay, they flipped the money switch. Want to do anything, want to accomplish anything? Sweet, you're going to pay us for it. You know, I think they took that page from Google, would be my guess. But you knew it was going to happen, right? You know, it's a publicly traded company. At some point, they're going to have to make money, in theory. Bitly I like both as a link shortening tool, and again, as Sola mentioned, it's a great way to find out. If you frequently share links, it's a great way to find out, well, okay, where did my links go, and how did those work their way through the ether? Tweet reach is another kind of cool one. You can find out, well, how far are my tweets going, who's retweeting, and what's the activity, and kind of what sorts of things are going on. And then another one that we've just recently started playing with called Keyhole, which is similar to Tweet Reach, but also touches on Facebook and Instagram. So all kind of tools that we like. So I told you I wasn't going to talk about tools. I literally have a slide on social media metric tools. Wow, that's really hard. That's like a bunch of stuff to keep track of. How do I keep that all in my head? And I've been in several discussions lately of what social media or what integrated marketing dashboards do you like? And my short answer to that is none of them. I haven't found one yet that I like. And part of the reason I haven't found one yet that I like is every client is different. Every client sells a different product. Every client works in a different marketplace. Every market works differently. If you're in the software business, people are inventing new things that revolutionize your business every day. If you make machine tools, your world and your trajectory is fairly predictable and one that you can look at patterns and see where they're going. So your set of metrics, your set of KPIs may be completely different than the person who's in software or in professional services. What we actually tend to recommend to people is build your own dashboard. And your own dashboard is probably comprised of a few of the tools that I mentioned earlier, and you spend some time to come up with some of your KPIs or key performance indicators, what things are important to you. So, you know, that could be new visitors to your website, and those being attributed to social media channels. That could be more complex things like engagement or retweets or shares or things like that. Or it might be a mixture of all of those things. So what we find actually is we build a lot of our dashboards in Excel, which sounds really crude, but it's a good way to do it. And the reality is that unless you're working on a very large brand with a fair amount of traffic, that looking at all of your metrics all the time, every day, is probably a waste of time for you. Most of the clients I work with, we find that, you know, if you're looking at your stuff weekly, the machine tool guy, he can look at his stuff monthly, and it might have changed, maybe. But then again, I worked with another client where we were developing a website, and one of the first things I asked was, do you have Google Analytics on your website? And they all went, yeah, I think we do. Does anybody have the password for that? Which usually indicates to me that you probably haven't looked at it in a while. This would be bad. You know, as a general rule, Google Analytics ought to look at that at least once a month. Probably a lot more often than that, actually. But that's what, you know, that's some of what I see out there in the real world is I see people doing this. And we all have the best of intentions, but we're doing 4 jobs. You know, we're doing the work at 6 different people in 2 different departments. And, you know, it's interesting to me to see social media creation and social media measurement sort of split up. But the reality is that most of us in the field know that we don't get the luxury of that. We got to do both. So how do I start to figure out, all right, there's 1,000 things I can pay attention to. How do I pick the 5 that matter? And also, how do I pick the 5 that are important to my management? Because at the end of the day, that's some of ROI also, is if management sees numbers that they go, oh, I care about that number, and that number's going up. Cool, good job, you get a promotion. Whereas it's, I don't even know what that number means, And I think it's going up, but I can't even tell. And when somebody asks that CEO, well, you're getting a return on your investment on social media, they go, I don't know. So I think those metrics are metrics that matter to you, that matter to your management, that matter to your business. And then I think the last thing, and this is sort of one of my overall philosophies on metrics, is I'm generally looking more for trends than specifics. Specifics are interesting. They're great when I can find them. But in reality, what I want to see is, okay, am I moving the needle upward? Is the curve going up? Is it going down? Is it starting to flatten out? You know, some of those types of behaviors. So I'd love to tell you all about some great case study that I'm doing for a client, but I'd be giving away their secrets, so I can't do that. So we're going to talk about what we do as an agency with our own social media efforts, just to give you a little bit of an illustration and of kind of how I get my head around some of this stuff. So our goals for social media were fairly simple. Our primary goal is to cross-sell the clients that we already have. We have a number of clients who don't know all the stuff we do. And one of our goals of social media was to have them see some things and go, oh, I didn't know you guys could do that. I got a project like that. You could help me with that. Another one is, in sales, there are 3 answers. Yes, no, and not now. And the vast majority of people fall into the not now category. What we use social media to do is it's a vehicle to talk to those not now people, so that when they are ready, they go, yeah, you know, I saw those guys they're doing some cool stuff. I saw them on Facebook, or there was something on Twitter, and that was really, I'm going to call them. That's the person I'm looking to stay in touch with. For us, also strengthening relationships with our partners and with influencers in the market, because all too often there are influencers who get asked, oh, hey, you know, I'm looking for an agency, who's a good one? And if they're following our social media stuff and they know what we're doing, they're more likely to say, yeah, you should call these PWB folks, they know what they're doing. Except for that fisherman guy, he doesn't know anything. Call the other people. We also use it to showcase new projects or new services that we're offering or new stories. It's a good way to kind of get the word out there. And for us, in many cases, it's a good way to go even trial things. Say, hey, you know, we're kind of thinking about getting into this area. What do people think about this? What are you doing in this area? And then most importantly, and here's the number 2 problem I find in social media. Our goal is to only do things that we can be active with and we can sustain. Remember newsletters, printed ones? Yeah, those were cool. I used to make a lot of money on that, so it was sweet. We had a client come to us and they said, we want to do a newsletter. We're like, great, you know, kind of what are you thinking? And the client wanted to do a 16-page newsletter. I'm like, really? Sure? I mean, you don't want to, like, I don't know, start out with like a 4-pager or, you know, a 2-sided sheet or something. So guess how many of these 16-page newsletters this client did? 1.5. Never did quite get the second one done. I see a lot of that in social media. I see a lot of people who go out of the gate and they go, I want to be on Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram and blah, 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 and all these other things, and I want to be all of these places, and they don't have enough content to sustain one of those channels. So for us, one of our goals was to say, let's not be on stuff just to be on stuff. Let's be on things that our customers are paying attention to, our influencers are paying attention to, and that we can put a reasonable amount of good quality content out into. So for example, you'll notice you can find us on Google+. We don't do much. We're just there because we need to be there and because Google says so. And we've all evolved into a society where we do what Google says. Google, just as an aside, if you're going to be paranoid about an organization, be paranoid about Google. So how many of you are familiar with the Nest thermostats? Okay, who bought Nest last year? Why does Google buy a thermostat company? Because what's in that thermostat? Data. Okay, maybe somebody in this room can answer this question for me. Why the hell does Google want to know what temperature I keep my house at? Okay, that's the best answer I've heard yet. All I know is, I'm like, I know you, she said habits.
I would say use it for demand prediction.
Yeah? But demand prediction of what?
Get it with the weather and the location. Energy usage.
So anyway, okay. So my main, okay, I didn't mean to open up the whole world, but you've given me a few new possibilities. You know, my main point in that is It's interesting to me, and it's obvious to me that there is some metric that Google is measuring that somehow or another they're going to get from my thermostat. Yeah, it is. It is. It's a world of big data. But again, there's some strategic reason they bought that company. There's some piece of data in there that they want, and I'm just dying to find out what it really ends up being. Roger?
Yeah, it's not just thermostat, instead of running your.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just the first step, but it's just, that was a funny example for me. I'm like, why does Google buy a thermostat company? Oh, we're almost there. So for us, our audiences are marketing decision makers, editors of publications, media sales reps, which are one of my number one sources of leads. It's one of the places we get a lot of referrals from, key partners and key vendors. So what do we look at? Really the stuff that we pay attention to. Google Analytics is important for us. I want to see, at the end of the day, I need to see traffic that's coming to my website. And in fact, I don't know if any of you are using some of these reverse lookup tools where you can really tell who actually went to your website through IP addresses. And we're just starting to dabble in them, and they're cool. They're a little scary. They're a little bit Big Brother-ish. As a sales guy, it's like, well, I can't call you up and say, hey, I saw you were on my website yesterday, because that's not going to be good. Twitter analytics we use quite a bit. Facebook Insights is a real good tool because Facebook's it's a pretty important tool for us. And Hootsuite. So that's a little bit of a walkthrough kind of how does our firm use these tools and how did we decide to do this? There's lots of other tools that are available to us, but these are some of the sorts of things that we chose. So thank you. Little bit of contact information for us. And for me, you can find me out there on LinkedIn. You can find me out there on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. Every time people do, I wonder why. Follow the firm, not me. I just retweet other people's stuff that I think is cool or funny.
Okay. Hi, everybody. While the other two kind of got into some overall measuring, we are, thank you, I might need that. We decided to stick mostly with Facebook. So we both work for General RV. We're more on the representing the business. So we look into our industry and what we can do to make us profitable on social media, or successful, I should say. So Facebook is our number one source of traffic to the website. Social is in our top 5, so the top 5 sources of traffic to the General RV website, but Facebook blows everything else out of the water. Oh, I have to push this thing. Did I push it?
You got to use the bottom.
The blonde can't work the remote.
Well, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
See, I was going to make the Bronco joke.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So our goals: to generate leads. So we work with mostly form fills, obviously, with an RV buying process. It's anywhere from 30 days to a couple of years. They start researching. We want to drive traffic to our website, increase our following, so page likes, and then obviously create user engagement. And we do that in 2 ways. 1, through organic posts, and 2, through paid ads. So I'm going to talk about organic posts and the things that we do for free, and then he's going to talk about where we spend money and how and why. So through Facebook organic posts, there are 3 main ways that I try to engage people. Through unique and creative imagery relating to the RV lifestyle, so things that people like in camping. And the second way would be through routine blog posts and videos. So we have a team that creates YouTube videos, things like that. There's walk-arounds and tours that RVers really like. Now, it's not my thing, but they like it. And then we also do customer photos. So people who are buying the RV, we take a picture of them with their RV, put it up on Facebook. People wish each other well. It makes everybody feel warm and fuzzy. So this was actually something that I created. I skim through Pinterest and then find things that intrigue me that I think that they will like, and then I recreate them using Photoshop. If you have Shutterstock or something like that, you can get vectors and imagery, If you're not very good at it, then you just have to be careful to attribute photos. If you're going to use them from Pinterest, just make sure you say this is the source. So this is a view when you go and click on the post through Insights, where you can see some data on the right that shows you how many people shared it. Of the people that shared it, how many more people shared it from them. So you can really see how far your posts went from the initial people who shared it. So what these do is they help reach our engagement goals. So they create shares and likes and comments, and then they also help increase our following. So we do some paid, but these types of posts really help increase the number of people that like our page. So this is just an example of some of the organic posts that I do. The top right would be, the customer photo. I put our logo for branding, put the family name or the couple, wish them well, usually tag the manufacturer, something like that to involve as many people as possible. A lot of the time then if you have a way to tag somebody else, then they'll want to share it as well. So you just doubled your audience by doing very little. And then I made, some silly, funny things. So humor is a really good way to increase engagement. People love funny stuff, There's one on Pinterest that I got that was people in sleeping bags are people in sleeping bags are the human tacos of the world, and it had the bear, and people loved it. Let's hook up, things like that. People find it really funny, they share it. It reaches those goals, helps increase engagement and get us free followers. So the second would be our blogs and videos. These aren't going to have as many shares typically or likes or comments, but they do increase traffic to the site. So that's our main purpose when we post these is, yes, it's good if we get a share or two, but generally I just want people to go to that site. I want them to view that video. If you have it set up, you can make some money on YouTube. That's not a main goal, but it could be for some people. And then create blogs that are relevant to people who are RVing that they would want to see. So some are funny, some are tips, some are a little more, technical when it comes to how to literally hook up your RV to your car. I don't write these. I write the more fun ones, like 10 places to travel. The way that I measure these is through Facebook Insights, which you can see things like how many shares you have, how many likes you've gotten, both on an overall basis and then also individually by post. How many people did you reach? So that's how many people actually saw your photo or saw your post. How many new followers do I have? You can actually look under a people tab in Insights. There's a demographic that shows you male, female, and your age and things like that. So it's really insightful that way. And this is all information that people are giving you, so it's very accurate. The next would be competition comparison. So you can pick your pages to watch. So it does tell the person, so if you think you're being sneaky, you're not. It will say, Camping World added you as a page to watch. This will show me in comparison to our competitors how we're doing, how we're measuring. So that is something that I use all the time. Camping World has 100,000 followers, so we have about 20,000. So I try to stay within at least 10 to 15% of how much engagement they're getting. If it's better, that's great. So I use Facebook Insights to measure engagement and our following. Google Analytics I use to measure how much traffic we're getting to the website from Facebook and all other social channels. Average time on site. So I look at the link. How long were they on our site? Did they leave really quickly? Then I look at those types of posts. If it's a blog, what type of blog was it? Maybe it was horrible. Don't write about that again. And then the number of pages viewed. Great. They read my blog. Now they're shopping. Even better. Those I want to write about more. Maybe it was a YouTube video. So we do actually end up getting leads from even organic posts. Leads from Facebook can also be measured. You can set up events. This is a little more technical, and you can look up things on how to do it, but it is something that I measure. Now, analytics I use to measure lead generation and traffic to site. Those are the two of the goals that I measure. Here's just a photo of the top left would be our pages to watch. So we have Lazy Days. I don't know if you guys saw Big Time RV. They got a reality show. I wasn't there yet, or I was kind of jealous. And then Camping World, Giant RV, and Outdoor Adventures. Those are two that I don't really care about. The main top three are what I watch. So this is really helpful if you have competitors. I don't know if you guys are representing clients, but you'd want to find out who their competitors are, and then definitely add this to your dashboard. Up at the top, you can see overview, likes, reach. So each of those tabs, I didn't do a slide for each of them, but they'll get more in depth into that specific area. So if you go to likes, it'll show you how much of your likes were organic, how much were paid, and it gives you graphs detailed on your likes. If you go to visits, it shows you how many visitors you're having, things like that. The people tab, that's where you can find out about your demographic, who's liking you, who's looking at your post, what age, what gender. And then insights, the bottom right is just the overall dashboard that you see when you go to the insights tab. So usually it's in the upper left-hand corner, Facebook Insights, if you guys haven't been there. And that just shows me how I'm doing week over week. You cannot adjust the date range on this. And if anybody there's a different way and I'm wrong, then please do email me and tell me how. Because that you can under other tabs, but just the general dashboard does week over week. And then this is Google Analytics. So this would show you we do get a lot of traffic from Pinterest and other sites, or other social channels, but Facebook blows everything else out of the water. And then the second portion shows you what we track. So we track things that are clicked that are important on our site, like maybe the payment calculator or something that's not a form fill, but it still shows interest. And then also submit, so people filling out a finance form or anything that would be a confirmed lead. And then we move on to the second portion, which would be what we pay for. So this is Matt, and he'll be talking about that.
Got to push down or to the side,
Side.
to the right.
Yeah. Don't try what I did. Don't push the center button either.
So just to give you a little bit of background, Candace and I work as a team, and she's the creative side of things, and I'm more the analytical side. So if I start getting too nerdy, she's going to hit me with her elbow and let me know that I'm being too technical. So a lot of the examples you saw before are the organic posts, and those are the kinds of things where they're not directly sales related. You know, they're in line with what our audience wants to see and what they engage with. But then there's other things that we need to post there because we are an RV dealership. We need to sell RVs. We need to generate leads through these channels. And so that's what we rely on these paid campaigns for. So there's 3 different types of campaigns that we use. Usually we use promoted campaigns for store events and monthly sale campaigns. And then we also have campaigns for generating following on the page. So this first example is all about targeting. So it's kind of hard to read in here, but Facebook for targeting is extremely powerful. If you've ever used AdWords or anything like that, you're kind of limited to geographic location, keywords, things like that for targeting. But for Facebook, you can actually choose interests and demographics like age, and you can use geographic targeting as well. But it's much more in-depth, and we have a much larger impact than we do with things like paid search ads. And we can see that through kind of what we spend on the campaign. So we might spend a fraction of what we do on things like Google AdWords on Facebook and get a much better response. Here are 2 campaigns with landing pages associated with it. Now, to illustrate what this is talking about, it's when you have a paid campaign online, even if it's off Facebook or something, using some other channel, you got to have a complete funnel. So on the left, you see the ads as they appear on Facebook, and then to the right are the landing pages that the folks go to when they click on the ads. And it speaks a lot to the trackability of the entire campaign, which I'll show you in these other slides. If you don't have a funnel where you can follow step by step from when the person saw the ad to when they clicked on it to when they went to a landing page to when they completed the action that you wanted them to complete when they got there, it becomes very difficult to measure that.
And I will just say, say quickly that we do use Facebook some to generate sales. So the second example would be an ad that we did specifically to try to generate some leads for those units.
Yeah, so these are really sale related. The top one is for a store we had opening in Florida. The bottom one is just completely sale related. So they don't have anything to do with really the lifestyle or anything that people would engage with. And we still get some engagement on these. I mean, you can see there's 58 shares on this one. And a lot of people like it and comment on it. But in general, we use the paid advertising to push out content that people otherwise wouldn't really care about. Here is an example of an ad that we run to generate a following on the page. So we get likes on a daily basis from just regular interaction on the account, which is great, but you can really speed that up by using a likes campaign. And you can target people who maybe aren't connected to your page, who are connected to other pages of similar interests. You can target people based on what they like, whether it's camping, outdoors, things like that. And you can build the following for the page in order to do other things like generate more engagement and have more paid ads and things like that.
And just so everybody knows, it is extremely, I don't want to say cheap, but cheap to get page likes. I mean, I think it can average anywhere, just depending how long you run it, from like 10 cents a like to about maybe 50. It gets lower and lower the longer you run the campaign. So if you are looking to develop your page, this is definitely a cost-effective way to do it, and it also ends up driving business in the end.
And that's kind of like a first step, right? I mean, you build this following, and now you have all these people that are attached to the page, and now you can do other things like the organic posts and things like that. And so measuring our paid campaigns, we do that through Facebook Ads Manager and also through Google Analytics. And you can see things like your clicks to the website through Facebook Ads Manager. You can see your cost per click, how much you're spending, what your click-through rate is. And just like a lot of the other presenters, and even earlier in the morning, the presenters were talking about having a goal in mind. So there's so much information in these platforms, and it's easy to get data paralysis. You can see all these numbers and think, oh, that's cool, oh, that's neat, well, what does that mean? If you don't have a clear goal in mind when you start out doing this, it's really hard to know, where your successes are. So in Google Analytics, in Facebook Ads Manager, we can see how impactful our campaigns are compared to what we're spending. You know, if we spent $10,000 on a Google AdWords campaign, we only got 90 leads from it, from form fills, but we spend, $1,000 on a Facebook campaign and we got, 300 leads. We can see that it's much more effective.
Which happens all the time.
A lot. Candace talked a little bit about event tracking. So it is a lot more technical to set up event tracking in Google Analytics. It requires knowledge of HTML code, but you can apply tracking code to the interactions that you have on your website. So buttons, links, video plays, things like that. And then you can marry that with whatever channel that people are coming from. So in this report right here, we're showing that people are coming from these social channels. And this is the event action they took, and we named it Click. So they just clicked on a button here, named it Submit, so they submitted a form from here. And you can develop data over time and see how your campaigns are shaping up. So that's all we have for you today. If you have any questions, I know we tried to speed through it so we could save some time.
Yes?
Okay, questions?
I noticed, and I know you said Facebook was the best vehicle for you. Did you ever try YouTube?
We do use YouTube.
I didn't see it shortly for analytics.
Oh, yes. It is it's usually always in our top 10 sources.
I think that showed the top 5.
That was just our top 5, so I can tell you month over month, Facebook and Pinterest are generally always our top 2. Facebook is always our number 1 since March, and then Pinterest, but I actively go on Pinterest and pin new units and vehicles and things like that, so I'm putting that content out there. YouTube I also do, but it's kind of, it's a little different. People have to choose whether to watch the video, do they want to spend time there? So we do make videos constantly, and we have our own YouTube page.
Yeah, we produce hundreds of videos, and we do about 1 or 2 a week almost. But even though it is a social media channel, we don't get as much engagement on that platform.
Good to know, thank you.
Yes?
Just curious, most of us espouse to the 80-20 rule. Do you do about 80% about things like, how to build a better bonfire, or, how to take your grandkids with you out on an RV trip, or do you do those kinds of things also?
I would say our Facebook advertising, the paid part, is where we choose to promote sales and other things like that. Now, if you don't have the funds to do that, then the 80-20 rule is very important. I would say we're about 95-5, but that's because we have the budget to pay for ads on Facebook that they show them to the same audience. So you can target people that like specific things. So I know that we're reaching the same industry in those ads.
And we see a marked difference in the organic posts from when we share things that people are engaged with and that align with the audience compared to directly promotional posts. Like, there's almost no interaction on those.
And I would say that when you are posting on your Facebook page, just be very aware of what content you're putting on there if it's sale related. So I generally will post like the deal of the week or something that's a little more spicy than just like, oh, check out this unit. Something, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's something that gives them incentive, like this is a limited time offer. So if you're going to organically post something on your Facebook page, just make sure that it has a good incentive or a little extra spice.
Just following up that question, when you do that with a special, do you say Facebook only, or do you just that?
I have not, but I've seen a lot of successes in that. For us, it's much harder to say, mention this in your, but if you have a product where you can track that and there's not a lot of facets and people touching on that, then absolutely. I would recommend doing that. Limited time Facebook offer, mention the word, jewelry.
Okay, we got time for a couple more really quick questions because we got lunch at 12:30.
She had
Okay.
For Scola,
Okay.
you mentioned when we were talking about Facebook that you thought that from a trend standpoint that eventually reach would be 0% in organic search because of what they're currently doing to the algorithm and how they're changing it. Yeah, I can see that they said this. Okay, I just want to make sure I got that right.
She had her hand raised for a
I
long
just
time.
had a quick question about blogging. I blog a lot and try to come up with creative content, and some obviously has more engagement than others. So how do you recreate content that was successful initially without oversaturating?
So I don't usually recreate content when it comes to, unless it was like a release of a new type of unit and I'm writing more of an informative post on like Winnebago just released the new Brave and now the floor plan has changed. But generally I just, I think lists are so you can take a list and you can change the title and use similar products, but I would never recommend re-blogging about the same things. You just have to continue to research and find other ways to maybe structure the information. So if you did a blog, maybe try a list or other things like that.
It was a list initially.
Okay. We can talk after.
How do you value what a lead is or what a click is? I get a lot of it as a client when we generated likes, leads, clicks, and they'll assign a value, a monitor. You have to say it's worth it. But what's your advice? I asked this the last one.
So in terms of a like and what it's worth to us, it's worth a potential lifetime customer. So each industry has to determine what that means to them. So we could potentially, from reaching that new person, develop a person who's going to buy their camper from us for the rest of their life. And usually it's every few years that they're going to get a new one. Not to alike.
We haven't been able to quantify that at this point, but for leads, there's kind of a lot behind the scenes that we didn't show you. So when something comes into our system, we have information and we can actually follow up on those leads. So if somebody came from Facebook, we can capture that referral source, and then we can know that, this name, address, phone number, and email came from Facebook. And then assigning a value to that is really a business
Decision.
yeah, it's a business decision. So we have X amount of leads, and then we have a closing percentage. Our salespeople are able to close, 4% of the leads that come in. And so more than talking about it literally, we create models at this point. So if they're able to convert 4% of the leads that come in, and we know each sale is worth $2,300, then we can start saying, oh, this is our ROI from this campaign because it generated this many leads. Does that make sense? So it's kind of unique to your business, whatever a customer is to you or whatever a potential lead is to you, how do you quantify that?
That's actually a very excellent question. I don't know if our other panelists had a perspective on that, placing values on likes.
It depends. I mean, for us, from an agency perspective, it depends on what my client's selling. I mean, if I've got a client that sells software that's $10,000 a seat, the lead's worth a whole lot more for me than if I've got another client that sells tooling components and they sell an ejector pin. So it's kind of a hard thing to quantify. And in fact, I got into a discussion about this with a room full of marketing people that might have involved alcohol, trying to answer the question, what's a lead worth to you? And honestly, collectively in this room, there was easily over 100 years of experience and we never figured it out. So it depends on your business and, as you mentioned, what's a lifetime customer worth to you? Could be a lot.